Madam Clerk, would you like to read the roll?
Sir, good afternoon. Mr. Brown,
Here.
Ms. Herbert,
Here.
Dr. Bustles,
Here.
Mr. Brennan,
Present.
Mr. McDowell,
Yes.
Mr. Duval,
Present.
Mayor Rickman.
Present,
Thank you.
Reverend McDowell, you mind saying a few words, blessing of the desserts and the birthday girl?
Oh Lord, for this day and for all you've done for each one of us. For the blessings of this city as we continue to expand. Bless each person around this table. We thank you, Lord, for another day. We thank you for Shanique Belton. We thank you for her energy and for what she does for each one of us. Particularly, we thank you for her birthday. You don't know the number of years, but you know her heart. Because of that, we are grateful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Amen.
Amen.
I still want to know how old you
I am 44.
are. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's a good year.
Seems like a long time, so long. And a few more than you. Mr. Palin,
Yes, sir.
the show is yours.
Next up is the adoption of the agenda.
We have a motion, second,
Second.
any discussions, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you read the roll?
Mr. Brown,
Here.
Ms. Herbert,
Aye.
Dr. Bustles,
Yes.
Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. McDowell,
Yes.
Mr. Duval,
Aye.
Mayor Rickman.
Aye.
Thank you.
Great. So our first item for city council discussion is American Rescue Plan Act budget. Ms. Missy Kaufman, our budget program manager and grants director.
Come on, Missy A.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council, Mr. Palin. Thank you for the introduction. So we are bringing to City Council on your agenda for this evening is Resolution 2023-55, which is asking City Council to accept the American Rescue Plan funds along with adopting a proposed spending plan for the budget. We're bringing this forward today in terms of helping to make sure that we're meeting some timeliness with this budget or with these allocations. Along with just with some conversations over recent months with the federal government with regards to unallocated funds, we want to make sure we stay again in compliance and timeliness for the American Rescue Act funds. So I'm going to start a little bit with just a review of what the American. See if I can move forward. All I'm getting is a. There we go. Thank you. So just as a reminder, the American Rescue Plan Act was passed into law March 11th, 2021, adopting the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA as we often know it, allocating $350 billion to states, territories, local and tribal governments to mitigate negative impacts from COVID pandemic through utilization of the state, local, federal recovery funds program, or SLFRF. Which is technically the program that we have received these funds, but everyone refers to them as ARPA. I think it's easier to say and memorize. So we across the country in other places just refer to it as our ARPA funds. The funds were allocated or approved in 21. Compliant and reporting guidance started in June of that year. And then the U.S., which of course spelled out the requirements that we must follow. Like with all other federal funds, we have to follow the 200 CFR, the reporting requirements and other uses such as procurement purposes and subrecipient monitoring and so forth. Of course, we have to also do quarterly reporting requirements, which started immediately as well. Finally, U.S. Treasury released their final rule in January of 2022, which provided the outlines of eligible uses and administrations of the funds. So just in looking at the allocations of the funds, there are 5 major categories that the ARPA funds are categorized for use, one of which is replacement of lost public sector revenue. This is sort of a general purpose catch-all, if you will, in order for local governments and states and others to utilize these funds for maintaining government services in order that could have been otherwise reduced as a result of impacts on revenue from that we're seeing impacts on revenue from the pandemic. Support of public health expenditures, address negative economic impacts caused by the public health emergency, provide premium pay for essential workers, and invest in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. Those are the main categories. The city specifically received $27 million over a 2-year period. We received the first half of $13 million in June of 2021, second half in June of 2022. We also received an allocation from Home through CDBG, the Home ARPA funds of $2.5 million, specifically administered by Community Development, specifically for affordable housing. In addition, the state of South Carolina comparatively received $2.5 billion, which a lot of that allocation was used for the Infrastructure Investment Program, referred to as the SCIP grant. And so far, the city has received an award of $10 million for the Lower Crane Creek Equalization Storage Project. So that's $40 million in federal dollars alone that the city has received through this program. Of course, we established some goals that we wanted to try to make sure that we maintained or in terms of utilizing these funds. We wanted to acknowledge that these are one-time funds, so we wanted to treat them as one-time funds and accepting them so that we utilize them in a way that we minimize or limit the burden on future budgets. We also want to make sure we are covering any deficits from our as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. We wanted to address immediate needs, focus on those things that have most immediate impact and restore city services, create sustainable solutions. We're prioritizing those funding for existing programs and avoid ongoing financial commitment. Of course, as with all of our federal dollars and grant dollars, we wanted to make sure that we were compliant in our with administering these funds, as well as staying on top of our reporting. And then, of course, achieve long-term benefits, consider one-time projects with higher ongoing positive impact. Since 2021, City Council has allocated a variety of these projects or these funds to a variety of projects. So what's before you today is a full schedule of all allocations that reflect both currently approved or allocated funds as well as proposed funds. So far, we have allocated $17.5 million has been approved, so the remaining 9.6 is what's before you today in terms of proposed allocations. Some of those allocations we've spent so far have been, or proposed or allocated so far, have been under the categories for public health, include our vaccine incentives, along with the police department's pathways unit, which is alternatives approach for police calls, utilizing partnership with Department of Mental Health. For embedded clinicians within our police department. We also have the Columbia Police Department demolition of vacant and abandoned hazardous properties to help remove blight. The Richland County School District 1 JAG program, which was the Jobs for America's Graduates that City Council approved last December. Then the Mayor's Office of Violence Prevention, which was allocated and has now been established and has been staffed. And then, of course, we had COVID-related expenses that we're reimbursing. And we've categorized these allocations based on the way that the federal government has categorized these expenditures by category. So that's the way we were presenting them in this fashion. Negative economic impacts, the Food and Security Solutions Initiative has also been approved. Rapid Shelter Columbia, that incorporated both the initial setup of the Rapid Shelter Columbia and some ongoing operating cost. Premium pay for essential workers during the pandemic. It was a one-time pay to city employees. And then, of course, revenue replacement we've utilized both in the general fund as a $2 million allocation to the general fund, and some specific projects that don't meet one of the other categories, to include our grant consultants, police facility renovations, fire department, station renovations, second set of bunker gear for the fire department, and for some other exhaust and other types of things at fire stations.
Ms. Kaufman,
Yes.
I'm looking over the sheet and I just caught it for the first time is that our commitment for the JAG program is a 3-year commitment.
Okay. All right.
So we need to factor that in.
Okay. We can make some adjustments.
Because to match the governor's 75%, we don't have to commit to the 3-year program.
Okay, we can adjust that. So far, and then we'll have some funds from last year that we can carry forward into this year, so we'll look to see what the deficit is to make up that difference. The items that are proposed today, really it's a continuation of some existing projects, but then also two other projects that have been added. And some of these projects we've actually had over different iterations of the budget or proposed spending that we've brought to City Council, but this will be the first time we're actually asking City Council to approve these funds to commit these dollars in total. We've brought these forward before in a variety of ways or various different conversations. So of course we want to continue to fund the Pathways Unit and the Police Department through these funds, continue to fund the Rapid Shelter, continue some additional, now that the Police Department Code Enforcement Office is preparing for demolition of homes. This will be around another round for additional properties to be demolished to continue to reduce and remove blight. This will help with catching up some case backlog, if you will, in terms of case properties for demolition that will make way for other possible development by those property owners. The city doesn't own the properties, of course, so the property owner is able to redevelop that property if desired. What's proposed is an affordable housing construction and rehabilitation program, some of which would be administered by the Community Development Department. Some of this would allocate some additional projects towards the SHINE program, but some other programs as well that would also be considered. Our Parks and Recreation has proposed a number of different park facility improvements to include some lighting that's highly needed at a variety of our parks, along with some additional playground equipment and some bleachers, some other things to improve our park systems, and continued revenue replacement, looking at a continuation of our grant program, grant consultant contract for additional terms, and for some additional work to continue upfitting and making improvements of our fire stations. I would add to this, what's also contributing to this is that the federal government has required that these funds be committed by December of 2024 and actually be expended by December of 2026. And as slow as we know some things do move, that time will actually be here pretty quick. So we want to be able to get these programs in place, follow all of the federal compliance that we're asked to do in terms of utilizing these funds so that we can use them in accordance to the intention of the federal government. Just to demonstrate graphically a little bit, this is just allocating how we've allocated these programs by fund. Again, showing 17.5 that has been approved or committed and expended, some of which expended, and then of course the total proposed is 9.6 million, rounding up the 27.1 million for allocations. I would also add the other addition that I did not cover was an allocation for the two of them that I actually missed. One is for the city's commercial retention and redevelopment program, the CRR program that is administered by our OBO office. This would help to expand that program for a few more years utilizing these funds. And then also to the assistance to nonprofits for the Lurie Center and Senior Resources consolidation, a commitment of $150,000 over the next 3 years. That was actually brought forward from a committee recommendation from last June. So that's being brought forward as a recommendation from the committee to full city council, utilizing these funds to help support that commitment, which would help, of course, expand programs to seniors, promoting healthy lifestyles. My apologies for overlooking those two additions.
Did we have any replacement of the revenue lost in the Columbia water was it 14 million that we were behind at one point? Is any of this ARPA going to?
No, and I would add that the revenue replacement is a specific, we took, the federal government gave an automatic $10 million sort of threshold that you could consider, so we accepted, we're proposing to utilize the $10 million cap, so.
Any questions? The only adjustment I see is the JAG program.
And that's a three-year program.
We need two more years added, so it's 160 that we need to adjust somehow in there.
We do have a little bit of contingency in here and some stuff like that we can make some adjustments to make.
If there are no questions, I think we're good. Mr. Taylor?
All right,
Thank you.
Thanks, Missy.
that was our only item for discussion. Executive session is next.
Ready?
Mr. Duvall?
All right.
Your favorite time of the day?
Okay,
Thank you, Missy.
it's executive session. Mayor, I move we go into executive session for discussion of negotiations incident to proposed contractual arrangement pursuant to SE Code 30-4-70A2, Soda City and Findlay Park, receipt of legal advice relating to matters covered by attorney-client privilege pursuant to SE Code 30-4-70A2, her and PFAS.
The dirty word.
PFAS is expensive.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions, concerns, any add-ons? Hearing none, seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Evans?
Aye.
Dr. Russell?
Aye.
Yes.
Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Aye.
Mayor Rickman?
Aye.
Thank you.